Hi and welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about the TV series The White Lotus, currently streaming on HBO and starring Jennifer Coolidge, Michael Imperioli, Connie Britton, and Steve Zahn, and a host of others. Currently there's 2 seasons out. I've watched both of them, just recently wrapped up season 2. The 2 seasons are very different from each other, but also very similar in a lot of aspects. It's not absolutely necessary to watch season 1 and then season 2 in order, but I strongly recommend it. There are 2 characters which carry over from season 1 to season 2, and it makes their story arc a little more understandable. Season 1 starts off in an airport where hotel guests are just wrapping up their 1 week stay and waiting for their flights home. As they're waiting to board, we see a casket being loaded onto one of the planes. And one of the passengers is talking to some other people at the airport and explaining that they're loading a body from the resort. Who that is, we don't know as viewers. There are several main groups of characters in season 1 at the White Lotus Resort. The first is a family of 4 plus the best friend of the teenage daughter. There is a young newlywed couple. And there's also the group of hotel employees led by the very charming but troubled manager, Armand. There's also this very wealthy woman who's a major character in the season, who is just off the wall neurotic. She's there to scatter her mother's ashes. Each group has its own storyline, and it's very well laid out. The characters reveal themselves as the story goes along, some almost immediately, some a little more slowly. There are only, I believe, 6 episodes in season 1. Even the characters, to me, are, without exception, wholly unlikable. They are selfish, immature. Their only interest is themselves. They never see beyond that. Even characters that are initially come across as caring about others are so unable to move outside of themselves and advocate for themselves that it's so frustrating. You just want to smack them. The teenage girls of the one family just loathsome, obnoxious creatures. Not unique to teenage girls, but it's like every character dialed it to 11, to borrow an expression from Spinal Tap. They take normal human aspects and just crank it right up, the negative aspects. Anyway, that said, don't confuse unlikable with unwatchable. The acting is absolutely superb. And the storyline is compelling. I found myself often watching 2 or more episodes in a row because I wanted to know what happens. Who's that body in the casket being loaded on the plane? And my guesses, and frankly my hope as to who it might be, changed from episode to episode because there's a lot of likely candidates. Not only for who that could be in the casket, but also who could have put them there and why. Definitely the acting is superb. I'm familiar with a number of the actors in season 1. Some of them I've never seen before, but all of them were just fantastic. Season 2 starts on the beach of the Ionian Sea, where a body of an unidentified hotel guest has just washed up. So very similar to season 1. We're in a new locale now. We learn that the White Lotus is actually a chain of rather exclusive boutique hotels. This one being in Sicily. Again, similarity to season one, there are several disparate groups of characters, and they all interact and intermesh to varying degrees. The first is a grandfather, father, and son. The son being a young adult, older teenager. They've all come to Sicily to discover their familiar roots. The mother of the grandfather was born in a small village in Sicily, and they hope to somehow reconnect with some family and perhaps have a homecoming of some sort. There are two couples. The husbands were friends and roommates in college. They're both couples are quite wealthy, but the one couple particularly so. The fellow having just sold his company. They're very young. They're all in their late 20s. The husbands know each other, but perhaps not as well as they thought they did. And the wives really don't know each other or the opposite husbands particularly well, but they get to know each other. There's the same wealthy woman from season one, this time with her husband, to whom we were introduced in season one, and she brings along a long-suffering assistant. It's like an emotional support person that she brings along. It's all that she needs is somebody to listen to her whine. There's also the hotel staff, similar again to season one, this time led by a woman who has her own internal struggles, maybe too harsh a word, but certainly her own internal conflicts and things that she's dealing with. There's a sort of a lounge lizard singer pianist who hits on anything that moves, and a couple of rather charming young prostitutes that flit in and out of the hotel property. This second season isn't quite as cranked up as season one was, insofar as the characters aren't quite as obnoxious as they were in the first season, though they still have plenty of flaws and there's still plenty to dislike. But there also seems to be some decency that creeps out, often surprising the character as much as those around them. Cinematography is absolutely stunning in both seasons. Kind of hard to miss with the locales of both Polynesia and Sicily. The musical score I found really interesting. So in the first one, it's largely Polynesian music, or at least a Western interpretation of Polynesian music. I think not having ever been to Hawaii myself, but I think it's the kind of thing that is often played for Westerners at hotel luau's, etc. But it's still very pleasing music. In the second season, there is, of course, Italian opera. There's also Italian pop songs, which are kind of interesting. Fortunately, there are subtitles whenever characters are speaking Italian. I found that very useful. The other thing that I found really interesting about this was in the opening credits of both seasons. Normally I don't, especially when it's a series, I'll look at the first episode credits just to see if there's any names that I'm familiar with, anything that pops up of interest. Really fascinating to watch the same credits, and it's the same opening credits throughout each season. The two seasons are different, but each season has the same credits for all its own episodes. They take on a special significance as the storyline reveals itself. So once you've watched 2 or 3 episodes and you watch the credits carefully, you can see how the credits actually relate to the story. And as the credits open, the scenes being shown are somewhat charming, benign, cheerful, pleasant, but they get increasingly darker as the credits continue. The credits run for probably just under 2 minutes, which is quite a long time for television credits. The music, too, becomes more and more frenetic during that 2 minutes as the credits roll. Just an interesting aside, and one that I thought was rather fascinating and well done. There's a lot of attention to detail given in this series, and I'm sure that if I were to have subsequent viewings, there are other things that I would notice, hopefully. I'd be observant enough to notice other things that, whether it be a little Easter egg that's hidden in there, or just something subtle that plays off some of the key storylines. Apparently, everything was written and directed and created by the same fellow, Mike White. I'm not familiar with any of his other work. I'm sure that he has an impressive resume, though. And good news, HBO has confirmed that they have renewed for a third season. So I'm looking forward to watching that. Curious as to where it might take place. Having done Hawaii and the Mediterranean, it's still a big world out there. They could do Australia, they could do Asia, they could do North America, but it's really outside of Florida or California. There aren't any real vacation spots, and I think the whole idea is that you want people outside of their comfort zone. So if the characters are Americans, you don't want them in America. You want them somewhere else where they don't have their normal support systems in place and familiarity with the culture. Definitely recommend watching this series. Apparently it's been nominated for and possibly has won a number of awards, and well deserved in my opinion. Again, as much as the characters drove me nuts, the acting was fantastic, the writing was good, the storyline compelling, and definitely sort of kept me, if not on the edge of my seat, but it certainly kept me intrigued right to the very end of each season as to what happened to whom and who was responsible for that. As always, thanks for watching. I would love to hear your opinion on this or any other shows in the comments, so please let me know your thoughts and click subscribe.